the tone, they do it, what I
Yeah.
expect them to do. And also just being polite, you know, and letting people know that I'm still here, even though I'm going through a lot. Royce is still here to help you guys out. So,
Cool.
yeah.
Well, so you've been practicing some of the skills you're learning. That's
Yes,
definitely a success. Good. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Julie, if
Okay.
I could
Go
chime
ahead,
in
John.
just for a second. Some of you may wonder sometimes why we take a couple minutes and ask you that question. And Royce, you just did a nice job of reminding us why. But most of us on this call spend all day trying to fix things, get people to do things, solve problems, take care of a customer complaint. We spend a lot of our day dealing with things that need to be fixed or improved, or that's broken, or somebody calls in sick. We're just always trying to fix things and solve problems. And sometimes if we get in a rut in that space, we forget to appreciate all the good things we have and the good things going on in our life and our health and people and employees that come to work every day. So sometimes we need to be reminded, and so do our employees, that we do have a lot to be thankful for. And there are good things going on in our life. So sometimes we all need to be reminded of that. And so sometimes by us asking you the question, makes you think of something positive. And as you just witnessed, half of you were having trouble thinking of something positive because you're solving so many problems. So
Yep.
Just food for thought.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, let's get started. Thanks, John. We're going to be working on understanding and defining performance today. And I am wondering if you can see my screen.
Yes.
Yes.
And you see the presentation? Awesome.
Yep.
So we're going to need a handout. And the handout that, bear with me, I'm trying to get my computer to cooperate. Doesn't seem to want to.
Julie, do you want me to say those opening comments that we discussed while you're?
Yeah, I just want to make sure everybody has their handout, and then I'll let you do that.
Okay.
Hey, you guys, I emailed you the handout, and this is what's on the cover of it. So if you could just make sure you have that handy and something to write with. And then while you are pulling that out, John is going to share a few thoughts about the content today.
So we have a belief that all of us on this call, certainly all of you out in various parts of the country at your respective businesses, spend a lot of your day supervising people, coaching people, providing people feedback, trying to get them to do something they wouldn't do yesterday, trying to get them to be more consistent, follow their routes, do what you tell them to do. You spend a lot of your day, whether it's Zooming or texting or phone calls, voicemails, trying to get people to do. Now, your rock stars, the people that are your best employees, today might be a little less valuable for that small number of people, but you spend a lot. We've had lots of calls like this with other people in the National Pavement Group, and we know that you spend a lot of your day trying to get people to do what you want them to do. And sometimes they do, and we need to recognize and give them, hand out attaboys and positive recognition. But today is really about giving you some techniques and some skills. And as Roy said, a different way to think about how we communicate to people so that when you ask somebody to do it, your feedback is more effective, your coaching is more targeted, and it actually works. And so today is about giving you some tools and techniques. So whether you're a dad or a mom, you can use these techniques at home, or whether it's one or two of your employees that are just kind of a constant aggravation to you, and you're constantly having to remind them of things, to do things, maybe even one of those challenging employees that you have to write up occasionally, to still be really valuable for you, for those employees that you spend a lot of time with. So just encourage you to be ready to take notes and ask questions, and take it away.
Yeah, and to build on what John just said, I find that sometimes we, I don't know, have these feelings of apprehension when it comes to working with our our problem employees. In other words, we need to talk to them about something, but we put it off or we do it the wrong way. I was having a cocktail with a friend of mine the other day, and she was telling me how she handled a discussion, and she says, so then it's like, and she goes on, and I said, you didn't say that, did you? And she said, yeah. And I said, how'd it work for you? And she said, well, that's where things blew up. So I don't think any of you wake up in the morning, get ready for work, and look in the mirror and say, boy, I hope that difficult conversation I have to have today really sucks. I hope it blows up. The person doesn't listen to anything I say, and we end up in exactly the same place we started. I think we have loftier goals than that, but sometimes we can't move forward with those loftier goals because we are focusing on the wrong thing. So take a look at our session objectives up here. The first one is to describe what performance is and performance is not. And I think by the end of this module, what you're going to learn is a lot of times the way that you approach a performance discussion is not focused on performance. So let's explore that and see. We want to make sure that you can distinguish observations you make about a person's performance from opinions you have about a person's performance or assumptions you might be making about a person's performance. Then how many of you, I'd like to see you just raise your hand, either with your hand or with the icon. How many of you feel like dealing with attitude problems is a particularly challenging type of conversation? Most of you, right?
Mhm.
And it is a challenging conversation. And thank you, Andy. We're going to simplify that for you. And so that in the future, when you have to handle performance conversations that are around attitude problems, you'll have a magic formula that will help you out a bit. So that's what we're here going to address today. And we're going to start out with a couple performance conversations. So what's going to happen is Andy and I are going to role play a conversation between the two of us, and she's going to be the leader and I'm going to be the employee. And what you're going to do is be a fly on the wall. And instead of paying attention to Andy and what she's doing, I would like you to pay attention to me and what I'm doing. And on your worksheet, I would like you to pull up worksheet page 3. Everybody there? You see there's employee number 1 and employee number 2. So the first conversation will be employee number 1 and the second conversation will be employee number 2. Anybody not have a place to take notes? And what I would like you to do is to record any observations you can make about my behavior during that call. Okay?
Got it.
All right. So this is a little awkward because this scenario, actually, to tee it up, Andy and I are live, and I know that you're looking at us in different screens. But Andy is actually going to be tracking me down in our break room. So imagine that I'm in the break room, and if you can, you know, really try and focus not just on my words, but what you're seeing in my nonverbals, I think that that would be stuff that you'd want to pay attention to. So here I am in the break room.
Hey, Julie, I'm so glad I found you. I've been looking around because you're supposed to be at a meeting today with, yeah, a couple of your colleagues let me know that you weren't there at that meeting where you're supposed to provide some information.
Oh,
What happened to you?
I think that they are mistaken. I told them very plainly I had something to do and I wasn't going to go to that meeting. So you've been misinformed.
Well, I also tried to reach you a couple times and left voicemail messages, and you haven't been picking up. So I was really concerned. That's why I've been looking for you for quite some time.
Well, I've been in the break room. Did you try looking in the break room?
That's where I just found you. And I'm so glad I found you because I was concerned when you didn't respond to the voicemail message, you didn't show up for the meeting, and I couldn't find you anywhere.
Well, maybe you should have looked here earlier.
Hey, Julie, you know, I noticed that you're not really looking at, do you have a cold?
No, why?
Well, your nose is running.
Yeah, maybe it's allergies or something.
You know, we're a little concerned these days about anybody who has a runny nose. Do you have a temperature?
Well, rest assured, I had my temperature check this morning and I just got my coronavirus results back. I don't have the virus. Is there anything else you need from me right now? Because I really was trying to take a break.
Well, you know, I'm thinking that we need to clarify what happened with your colleagues and not going to the meeting and being hard
What
to.
happened with my colleagues was that I told them I wouldn't be at the meeting, and they told you I would have been at the meeting. So what is the big deal? So I missed a meeting and you come tracking me down like a bloodhound in the break room?
I don't think I'm being a bloodhound. It's just unusual for you to be unreachable. And I needed to clarify this sooner.
Well, I'm unreachable. I have a little bit of a headache. I don't feel good, and I would like to just be left alone.
Well, I'd like to invite you to come to my office after you've taken your break, because we do need to talk about if there's something else going on.
Yeah, you should talk to them and ask them why they lied to you. Okay, stop. Thank you, Andy. So please write down any observations you can make about my behavior as the employee in that discussion. And I'm just going to take you where you're at. Just throw out a couple behaviors. Tom, give me one off your list.
You deflected everything that you're asked.
Okay. I deflected everything I was asked. Good. Ivana, one thing you wrote down.
Sounded mad.
I sounded mad?
Yes.
Lisa, one thing you wrote down.
For being rude.
I was being rude?
Sure.
Lois, one thing you wrote down. You're muted. Everybody unmute your camera unless you, or your audio unless you have noise in your background.
I had no eye contact.
Okay, no eye contact. Royce, one thing you wrote down.
Your face expressions show that you didn't want to be bothered.
Okay. Nick, one thing you wrote down.
Defensive posture.
Okay. Eric, one thing you wrote down.
I had eye contact too.
Okay. Ryan?
Seem to be blowing off the situation. It's not a big deal to them.
Okay. Great. Thanks. We're going to move on to the next scenario. Move down on your worksheet to the second scenario. And Andy and I are now on a Zoom call. So this is like a normal interaction between the two of us. Well, normal. Okay. So, hey, Andy, how's it going?
Hey, I'm really glad to get to see you, Julie, because I wanted to talk to you about that brochure that just came out.
Oh, did you see it? It looks so awesome. I was really excited, way beyond my expectations. I think it's just beautiful. What do you think?
I think you're right. It is absolutely beautiful. And I want to commend you for the great work you did on making it so beautiful.
Thank you. I did work really hard on it.
Yeah. Julie, we had a meeting last Tuesday where I went over all kinds of changes. I spent 30 minutes on all of the changes and specifications for that brochure.
What?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Lex.
You mean those changes we made, right? You mean the changes I made last week?
Well, then I sent you a follow-up email to make sure that it was really clear what needed to be changed.
What do you mean what needed to be changed? Everything got changed, right?
No, unfortunately, there was a lot that was missed, and this is a big problem.
Wait, time out. What? Are you telling me that the brochure had changes that didn't get made?
I sent you an email. Yeah, I sent you an email and you replied, "Oh yeah, got it." And so I had every expectation that.
When did you send this email, and when did we have this meeting? I don't even remember what you're talking about.
Well, we had the meeting. I documented the changes afterward. But Julie, the big thing is this is now off target, and we have to spend $5,000 to reprint it. This is a big deal.
Well, why do you think that's my fault? What did I do?
You had the meeting with me, and I know that it happened, and I have the email in which I detailed what needed to be changed in this brochure, and you confirmed it. And this is really unlike your usual performance.
When did we have this meeting again?
Tuesday, last Tuesday at 11.
I remember talking to you last Tuesday. I remembered that we picked colors out, or we confirmed the colors, but I think that you're mistaken. I don't think that we actually talked about any changes in that meeting. I would remember that, Andy.
Well, I think you need to check your email inbox also and see that I actually documented the changes that need to be done and that you confirmed that you understood.
Well, this is just all news to me. I'm really upset to hear this, but I really think that I just don't even know what could have happened.
Okay, well, we're gonna have
we'll just be done. We'll be done. Don't beat me up anymore. No, I'm just teasing. Okay.
Okay.
Well, Dale, what's one observation you made about that conversation?
Kind of nonchalant, a little argumentative.
Okay.
You wouldn't allow her to kind of finish her thought.
Okay. Nick, one observation you made.
Acting like you don't know anything to be able to not take any of the blame. So you're deflecting blame by lack of knowledge or knowing what was going on.
Okay. So deflecting again must be my thing. Tom, one thing on your list.
I kept interrupting.
Okay. RJ?
I said one-sided, not want to take ownership of any work.
Hold on a second for me, bro.
Okay. One-sided, didn't take ownership. Vinny, one thing on your list.
I felt like you were a little bit dismissive.
A little bit dismissive? Okay. So now we're going to explore the notes that you took, and we're going to explore them in the context of what I asked you to give me and what you gave me. So what I asked you to give me was observations you could make about my performance. And let's take a look at a definition of observations. And I do believe that this is in your workbook on page 4. So when we're talking about performance observation, what we're looking for are neutral facts that you can describe without relying on assumptions. So what are the facts? You know, that old show, Just the Facts, Ma'am, Just the Facts. So we're looking for the facts that you have not added any opinion or assessment or judgment to. And then there's other stuff that we can talk about, which is interpretations. And interpretations are your opinions, your generalizations, your assumptions, and they're based upon your assessment. So do you see how those two things are different? This means yes. Show me a thumbs up. I want to make sure you get this before we move on. All right, so let's play around with this a little bit. What we're going to do is we're going to check our work. So these are some things that are similar to some of the comments that you guys made. And what I want you to do is look at them and use the screen here, but keep your page open with the observations and the assessments. Keep that open so you can just determine which definition it's best, each of these behaviors are best matching, okay? So when I say was behind schedule, would that be a neutral fact that could be described without relying on assumptions, or an opinion? What do you think? Dale, what do you think?
Was behind schedule. Observation is a neutral fact that can be described without relying on assumption.
Okay.
Interpretations.
We're going to call that an observation, right?
Yeah.
What we did observe was the person was behind schedule. Received complaints from coworkers who could not locate her. Is that a fact or an opinion or assessment? Who just spoke?
I did.
What did you say, Lisa?
Opinion?
I'm sorry?
Opinion? He said opinion.
Okay. What makes it, who said fact?
Frank.
Hi, Frank. Sorry, we can see you talking. What makes you say it's a fact?
Because it happened.
It
Someone
happened.
received a complaint.
Right. This is a fact. It's just, there's no fluff in it. I received a complaint from coworkers who could not locate me for a while. And that was clearly the fact of the situation. What about seem to be hiding in the lounge? Is that a fact? An observation, or that's an interpretation?
Interpretation, yeah.
Right. It's really an assessment or an opinion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Acted suspicious and jittery.
Interpretation.
Interpretation. Manager could not locate for a considerable period of time.
Observation.
That's an observation. Good. Became defensive easily.
Interpretation.
Interpretation. Seemed miffed or agitated.
Interpretation.
Okay.
Good observation.
Stacy, didn't make eye contact or covered eyes.
That was a fact.
That's a fact. Christy, uncooperative and withholding.
That was an observation or a fact.
You think that's a fact, that I was uncooperative and withholding?
Or an observation.
That's an assessment. Yeah, I know you're trying to say the other one, right?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Do you notice when I asked you all for what you wrote down about the story? When I asked you that, you all had different things on your paper, right? Like most of you probably had defensive. But if we were in the same room and someone said, I want you to describe that person's attitude in one word, what do you think the likelihood is that 100% of you would have gotten the same answer? Royce, what's the likelihood?
You said what's the livelihood?
The likelihood that if I would have asked all of you to describe my attitude with one word, that you would all come up with the same word. From 0 to 100%, what percentage would you guess that that's going to happen?
60.
Probably 50.
Okay, well, you guys are all wrong because it isn't going to happen. Some of you would say combative. Someone you would say defensive. Someone you would say uncooperative. That's the problem with these words. These are opinions based on judgments that we're making. What about if I rolled my eyes? Is that a fact?
Yes,
or,
it's a fact.
okay. So how many facts did you come up with on your sheet? Someone give me a fact that you came up with on your sheet.
Oh, you mean
Wait.
about you?
What's your note? The notes you took? Yeah.
Oh, that you were looking away from the person. That's a fact.
Okay. We got a fact. Good job, Kevin. Did you have another one?
You let me see. You just didn't. You look like you just didn't want to be bothered. That's a fact.
Okay.
That's a fact.
Is not wanting to be bothered a fact or an opinion?
Well, your basic
An
question.
opinion.
Okay, Christy, you talk first, Christy. Is it a fact or an opinion?
An opinion.
Yeah, it's an opinion. You're just go ahead, Kevin.
Let me ask a question though. But if it's, you said opinion, okay, a fact is something you can back up with, certain things, right? If I'm looking at you looking away, I'm looking at you being rude, I'm looking at you just sighing or doing whatever, all those multiple things together tells me that you're just not interested, right? Wouldn't that lead to a fact?
Well, that's a conclusion.
Oh.
So you've concluded from your opinion what's on my mind, what I'm thinking, and why I'm doing it. Right? Who has more than 2 facts on their paper, on their notes?
Yes.
Anyone?
They all shot down.
Okay. So go ahead, Christy.
I had that you were putting your hands like covering your head and face.
Okay.
And then not making eye contact.
Okay. So you had 2. Good. Who has more than 5 opinions or assessments on their sheet?
Hands.
Devonna, how many answers did you put on your sheet?
I put you didn't make any eye contact and not into the conversation.
Those were your the only two things that you put? Okay. Nick, how many things did you have on your sheet?
I have 9.
You had 9? And how many facts did you have there?
I have 2 facts.
Okay, what were they?
Head down and rubbing your face.
Okay. So someone take a guess. Why is this important? Tom, why do you think this is important to focus on the facts?
To get a fair assessment of the situation, you really need to focus on the facts.
And what are you going to do with your fair assessment?
That's how you can make a good judgment call on the best course of action to take. So you have to look at all the facts.
Okay. Stacy, what happens when someone second guesses your intentions? Let's say that you were supposed to be at a meeting at 9 o'clock and you show up at 9:15 and I say, Stacy, I'm so sick of it. You just don't care about our team.
If I'm late, I probably have a good reason.
Okay. Is your reason that you don't care about the team?
Absolutely not.
Okay. So how do you feel when someone second guesses your intentions?
I don't like it.
Okay. And it would make you respond how?
I would probably get defensive.
Okay. Ryan, how do you feel when someone second guesses your intentions? You're on mute.
Yeah, definitely get a little defensive and take offense to it.
Okay.
Second guessed.
Okay. If someone is observing your behavior, Mary, and they say, well, Mary's obviously not into the discussion, how do you feel, Mary?
Not good at all.
Okay. So when we're having discussions with people, let's just say that we would be talking to me about this, and I come out saying, hey, Julie, I wanted to talk about what happened the other day when I found you hiding in the lodge. The lounge, you were acting really suspicious and jittery. You were totally defensive, just completely uncooperative, withholding, and completely out of line. If I say those things to any one of you, which of you are going to respond with, oh my mistake. I shouldn't have done that, right? None of you will.
Hey, whoever did that, I'm in the zone.
Say that again, Kevin. Oh, he was talking to someone else. So this is why it's important. It's important for us to know the difference between our opinions and our generalizations and the facts. And this is why we stay up late at night worrying about how a conversation is going to go. Because I have, 15 different people in the room. I didn't coach any of you on what to say, and yet almost every one of you had way more opinions and assessments and interpretations than you did observations, right?
Yes.
So RJ, would it be fair to say that it's our nature to jump to assessments when we're observing behavior, particularly behavior that we don't approve of? Is that fair to say?
Yep.
Yeah. So if we want to have better discussions, we have to learn to take all of the noise out of our discussions and focus on the facts at hand. So now I can start the discussion and say, Julie, thanks for spending some time with me today. What I wanted to talk about is what happened last Tuesday. Hi, Martha. I wanted to talk about what happened last Tuesday when there was some miscommunication between you and your team. And because of that, we went looking for you and couldn't find you for a while. And if I can have an entry like that, and if I can stay focused on the fact and not react to the person's behavior by becoming equally combative or equally defensive, I have a fighting chance of having a good conversation. So we're going to practice with this a little bit more. I just want to show you the statements for number 2, and we'll do a quick practice on this, and then we're going to do a quick quiz. So we're on number 2. The first note here is claimed not to recall previous discussions about changes. Do we have an observation or do we have an interpretation there?
Observation.
Observation. Totally confused.
Observation.
It's a tricky one.
Yeah.
Interpretation.
We could certainly say I'm confused. Did anybody think that maybe I wasn't confused, maybe I was lying?
I thought so.
Okay. So if we decide to label it me being confused, that's your opinion. Because someone else's opinion of the same scenario was totally full of crap, right?
Yeah.
That's what I meant with words that are interpretive. Try to avoid taking responsibility. Is that Christy, go ahead.
An observation, a fact.
Is that an observation? Anybody can build an argument against it being an interpretation? Do you know that I was trying to avoid it? Or do you know whether I really believed it to be true?
It's an interpretation. It's
yeah.
what you feel, what you think is happening. It's not actually a fact.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Not telling the truth. Staff member must remember at least a part of what was covered in the meeting.
Observation.
I would say interpretation.
It's an interpretation again.
Interpretation.
Yeah. Okay. Disobeyed manager's instructions and did it his or her own way.
That's a fact.
That's a fact.
That
Read
could
it
be argued.
carefully.
I think that could be fact, but it could also be observation.
Yeah, because
Well,
she claimed.
She didn't necessarily do it her own way. That's just what you're observing or interpreting to have happened.
That's right. Right. That's what you're interpreting, is that I did it my own way, but maybe I didn't. Maybe I am on medication and I legitimately didn't remember.
But couldn't that also, the fact part of it is she gave you something to put into the information that you did not put in there. So it's a fact that you didn't follow what she told you to do.
Yes, and that's
not what the sentence says.
That's not what the sentence says. Right. This says I disobeyed and did it my own way. So you're projecting onto the discussion. So what you're talking about, Kevin, is the next sentence. Had documents printed without making agreed on changes. That's the only thing we know. We don't know why. We have to guess why. Okay, was legitimately concerned. Is that an opinion or is that an interpretation or an observation?
Interpretation.
Yep. All right, good. Let's practice a few of these. On the next page, you have a worksheet with some questions on it. So, how do we define performance? If this is about performance observations, we're going to say that we are going to make our playing field for performance as what a person actually said or did in a given circumstance. What a person actually said or did in a given circumstance. And that definition is right at the top of your sheet on page 5.
Julie, could I chime in for a quick second before we start this exercise? Folks, one of the other benefits of learning how to differentiate between the facts and what interpretations or assumptions or conclusions is when you start commenting or saying something about something that's not a fact, the other person tends to get emotional. They'll get angry, sometimes they cry, sometimes they pout, sometimes they shut up, sometimes they become argumentative, but now emotion comes into the conversation because you weren't really talking about or providing feedback about the facts. The facts are less emotional. Ryan, that's an orange shirt. That's a fact. If I made a comment about whether or not I like it, that's my opinion about your orange shirt. And so as we think about where all the drama comes from when we end up in confrontations with people, more times it comes from all the emotion and all of the drama that gets created because we get away from what the real issue was or the real facts. So just as you think about how many times we end up in situations where now it's escalated, it usually escalates because we're not talking about the facts anymore. So Julie, go ahead.
Thanks, John. And if I could just build on what John said, at the same time, we can get emotionally charged when we focus on our opinions and our assessments instead of focusing on the facts at hand. So, for example, I gave the example of someone being late for a meeting. My husband is always on time or he's always early for everything. So if I'm late for something, he says that I disrespected him. How many of you feel like it's disrespectful to show up late for a meeting? Some of you?
Oh, I absolutely think that.
Okay. Or late for a manicure or whatever. When he labels it as being disrespectful, what does that do to his emotional charge?
Taking it personally.
Right, when he takes, right. So are we going to have our best discussions when we get wound up around our opinions and take things personally?
No.
No, we don't. We do not. So that's why this focusing on behavior is so really, really important. So here's our definition: what a person actually said or did in a given situation or circumstance. So there's two phrases there in red. Said or did is obvious. That's what we've been talking about. My people were not able to find me, and they found my manager found me in the break room. In a given situation, that means that particular situation there, versus just what I always do or what I never do, because that kind of stuff gets us in trouble. So situations are important because they give us context. So if we were in a training session and I said, and then Martha stood up in the middle of the classroom and started screaming at the top of her lungs. What would most of us think? Is that effective or ineffective behavior? How many of you say it would be effective behavior?
Depends what she was screaming.
Okay, right, might be effective. Most of you, how many of you think it would be ineffective behavior? Okay, and how many of you would say, I don't have enough information?
What if I said the building was on fire?
Yeah, if Martha stood up and started screaming because the building was on fire, or she just got a text that there's a bomb threat in the building, that would be effective behavior. But if Martha's just mad at us because we made her miss her smoke break, and she decided to take that out by screaming, that would be less effective behavior. So the given situation gives us context. So let's take a look at these, and you can just write in your book there. Now we're going to be asking whether these are examples of performance or something else. So you can put a P in the line if it's performance, and you can put an O if it's other or something else. And I want to share with you that I got these little snippets from actually looking at performance reviews that people had done on their employees. And this is a very common one. Maintain can-do attitude at all times. Performance or something else. Then go back to your definition. It's right at the top of the page.
P?
Yeah.
So if I got everybody right now to write down what a can-do attitude looks like, would we all have the same answer? Someone's got a background noise that's coming through. I don't know who. Can-do attitude is a label, right?
Yeah.
So it's a label that would describe a type of performance. So it's a label that we put on a collection of performance. So technically, this one is not a given situation, and it's not what the person said or did. It's our opinion of what the person said or did. Okay, I'm gonna have everybody put, unless you know that there's someone talking in your office and still have your audio unmuted, because I still am hearing background noise. Okay, so we're gonna call this another. Completed route ahead of schedule 87% of the time. We have performance, or do we have other?
Performance.
Performance. Right. Do you see how clean and clear this is? There's no quibbling. What did they do? They completed the route ahead of the time. How often? 87% of the time. Good, very good. Fail to respond appropriately when asked to support another team with a special project.
Other.
Other, yeah.
Okay, who said other? Dale, did you say other?
Yeah.
Okay, and Ryan, you said other? Why do you think it's other, Dale?
Well,
What keyed you off?
that was to respond appropriately when asked to support. Well, I mean, it's not clear. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
It's
So do we know a specific situation?
no. Other than support, yeah, well, yeah, sort of.
So we
When
do
asked
have
to
a
support,
specific situation. Ryan, why do you think it's other?
no, Julie.
Yeah.
Another reason too is it doesn't give you enough information. All it says is fail to respond appropriately when asked to support another team with a special project. I mean, I feel like there should be a little bit more information given. That's why I put other.
Well, what's the key word here that makes it another?
Appropriately.
Appropriately, right.
Because your definition, my definition is totally different of how far someone would go before I say it's inappropriate and you would say it's inappropriate.
There you go. So if we wanted this to be what a person actually said or did, we wouldn't say failed to respond appropriately. We would say they did this when asked us to support another team with a special project. They rolled their eyes and walked away. Now I can assess it. Now it's a fact that I'm dealing with. Again, I pulled these things right off of performance reviews because this is how we talk. It's very easy to find them there. Has chronic problem with lateness and is absent more than anyone else.
Performance.
Yeah, performance.
Jason says performance. Anyone see it differently? Okay. There's a couple things wrong with this one. Who can help me with it?
Would it be the use of the word chronic?
Yeah, chronic.
And then
not
more
a
than?
chronic problem. What does a chronic problem look like? Like, we don't know. That's a label we've given for their behavior. How about absent more than anyone else?
What are they talking about?
It's not a fact, it's an opinion.
Okay, well,
unless you
That can be
document
an
it.
opinion. That can be quantified.
Yeah, because that means if you document it every time and write them up every time, you'll know how many times.
Yes,
And
you're
obviously
right.
comparing that person amongst other people that they see that is always late.
Yeah, except we don't know how often anybody else is absent, right?
That's true.
Because what if the only other person was absent twice or once? I would only have to be twice. Is that a big deal?
Depends on what day of the week it is. If we got an airport sweep and you didn't show up, that's a big deal.
That is a big deal. But then you just say, did not show up for airport sweep on this date. Now you've dealt with the facts. This is a little murky. And just for context, think about yourself. If I say to you, Kevin, you're absent more than anyone else, I want you to think about your behavior, or, well, maybe you it would, or does it cause you to think about, really, who else is absent? And how often are they absent? You see what I mean? It's just like, it doesn't accomplish our goal. If our goal is to get them to think about their behavior, we should just say, you were absent 7 times in the last 10 weeks. That's something that's non-disputable and something we can work with. All right. Refuse to respond to more than 6 direct requests from supervisor. What do we got there? Performance or other? Lois, what do you think?
I think that's a performance.
Okay, what makes you say that?
You documented how many times and kind of like specific to the direct request from supervisor.
Okay, who said other? What makes you say other?
How do you know they refused?
Okay, it's a little, right, it's a little murky at the beginning. So definitely we have 6 direct requests from supervisors, and we have an idea of what happened. So this is kind of what I would call borderline. But what we could improve it, how could we improve it? Hayden, how do you think we could improve this one?
You can just change it to did not respond instead of refused.
Okay, yeah, because refuse kind of has a belligerence to it. Did not respond is a little bit cleaner. Scored above average or higher on all new hire training assessments. Nick, what do you think?
That's performance.
Performance, right, very clean. We know what they were measuring and we know what the specific measurements were. Consistently demonstrates problem-solving ability. Royce, what do you think?
Other.
Other? What makes it other?
Because it's not giving no, I'm confused on, they're not giving no direct, it's not a sentence to make it explainable.
It's not a given situation. Is that what you're after?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, this isn't the end of the world to say this. And probably I wouldn't be upset if you said it to me. But if you said consistently fails to demonstrate problem-solving ability, I might feel more comfortable with factual information.
It's also your opinion.
Yes, it
It's
is.
not a fact.
Yeah.
Performance based.
Missed all one team meeting last quarter. Is it factual?
Yes.
Yes, it is factual. Could it be better? How would you make it better? Martha, how would you make it better? Missed all but one team meeting last quarter. Anyone take a guess?
Julie,
Yes.
I'll probably put a number in there, like probably he missed like 7 meetings.
Okay.
Something like that.
Yeah. Missed 7 out of 9 team meetings.
Yeah.
Less context, better facts. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Met all qualifications for promotion in less than 3 months. Performance, right? We know exactly what this person is talking about. Disregards deadlines and turns in paperwork very late.
Other.
Other, what is this? If it's other, what is it?
It's an opinion.
What part of it's an opinion?
Oh, actually, never mind.
What's very late?
What's very late? Yep. And what's disregarding deadlines? Maybe I'm not disregarding them. Maybe I suck at time management. Maybe nobody else has their work to me in time for me to get them done. So when we make a judgment and we say, you know, Nick, man, you've been disregarding your deadlines and turning in your paper really late. I've already told him that I'm judging him for his performance. Okay, let's do a timeout. What is the most important thing we've talked about here so far for you? Dale.
Well, honestly, being able to recognize what is facts, what is not, can eliminate a lot of disagreements, misunderstanding, and I think John brought it up earlier. Sometimes when you assume something, it can allow them to be emotional. So you kind of take that emotional element out of it. So this has actually been kind of eye-opening for me.
Okay. How many of you would really prefer to not have performance discussions that are emotionally charged? Anybody not raising their hand? Ivana's not raising her hand, so she wants them. So we're going to give all of those to her. Nobody wakes up in the morning saying, man, I hope when I bring this up with my employee, they just completely blow up and lose their mind. Or they fold up their arms and stop talking. None of
All of your problem employees call her.
Say it again, John. What'd you
Said ask all of your problem employees to call her.
No. Okay. Lois, what's the most important takeaway from you in this discussion?
I put stick to the facts, not opinions or emotions, and you'll have a better outcome.
Okay, great. RJ, what's your takeaway?
I was struggling in the beginning because in the beginning I wanted to put all performance, but once I start, I guess not to repeat it, but understanding what's factual and what might be opinionated, it's easier to understand it in a more specific way.
Yeah. Well, this is really hard for most people because most of us are not behaviorally focused in our conversation. It's really a skill that you learn over time. And so, you know, like I said, I put you guys through 2 scenarios. And in those 2 scenarios, everybody leaned towards assessments and interpretations, right? So it's our go-to. It's sort of like we bottom line it. Yeah, she's just the most offensive person on the planet. But we want to make sure that when we approach someone, that our words invite dialogue. And how many of you have your learning journal with you? Pull it out and go to your where you are going to post some notes, because I want you to write this down.
By the way, this also works with teenagers. Most of them.
And spouses.
No, not so much.
This is what I want you to write down. When you end a performance discussion, you want the other person to be thinking about their behavior and not your behavior. When you end a performance discussion, you want people to be thinking about their behavior and not your behavior. What does it mean when I say not their behavior? What might they be thinking about their behavior? Lisa, if I'm having a conversation with you, Lisa, yes, at the end of the discussion, and you find yourself thinking about my behavior, why would you be thinking about my behavior?
Why would I be thinking about your behavior?
What would cause you to think about my behavior? Hard question. Anyone want to take a stab at it? Go ahead.
Go ahead, me. It's a hard question.
It is a hard question.
I'd be thinking about because I don't know.
So if I can handle a discussion with you in a way that I don't call you names, second guess your intentions, I stick to the facts, and I generally want to help you, you're more likely to be saying, yeah, I got to work on this.
Yeah.
But if I attack you, if I second guess your intentions, if I compare you to other people unfairly, if I take everything out of context, if I use generalizations like you're always late and you don't care about anything, when I use language like that, are you sitting there saying, yeah, this is something I need to work on?
Yeah.
What do you think about, Lisa?
I'd be thinking about, if you were saying,
if I'm calling you names and second guessing your intentions and accusing you of doing things for certain reasons, you're thinking,
really defensive.
you're going to be defensive, right? And you're going to be thinking what a
jerk you are, Dan.
What a jerk I am. Thank you. Better word than was about to come off of my lips. Right? This is you don't want to finish a performance discussion and have the person you talk to be sitting there thinking, I can't believe her. She's such a jerk. She's mean to me. She doesn't appreciate it. Blah, blah, blah. You don't want that. You want them to be thinking about, yes, this is something I need to work on.
True.
Okay, one more. Mary, what's your takeaway from what we talked about so far?
Focus on the facts.
Focus on the facts. All right, great. So now we have this thing about making attitudes behavioral. Here is the magic formula for that. What are some of the attitudes you guys run into in your workplace? Tom, what's an attitude you run into in your workplace?
I hate to admit it, but it's true. Negativity.
Negativity. Good. Martha, what's an attitude you run into in your workplace? I don't know if she can hear me. Martha, can you hear me? Okay, Lois, what's an attitude you run into in your workplace?
Dang.
I'm sorry?
That people feel like I'm attacking them.
Okay. So they're constantly taking things personally?
Correct.
Okay.
Stubbornness.
Hayden. Say again, Hayden?
Stubbornness.
Stubbornness. Okay. So the secret to making attitudes behavioral is to recognize that the attitude label we give to somebody is simply a label we've used to categorize behaviors we've seen them demonstrate. So go ahead and turn to your next page of your worksheet, and you'll see there's a lazy attitude there. Oh, I'm sorry. Just there's a reference sheet for you on page 6. That's just giving you some examples of how to apply this in some real life situations. We're not going to do anything. I just wanted you to have some takeaway examples to go home with. So
this page is page 7. Yep.
Yeah, we're on page 7. And so instead of me calling my employee lazy and try to get them to fix their lazy problem or lazy attitude, what I want to do is spend a little bit of time documenting what are the things that this person is doing that leaves me feeling that they're lazy. So these are four examples of things that a person might have done throughout the course of their work that cause many people to label as lazy. So go ahead and read through those 4 bullet items on your worksheet or on the slide. So do you see how these statements are very factual, like we've been talking about, right? Mm-hmm. And if I want to have an effective conversation with Susie Q, let's say Susie Q's the lazy one, I'm going to sit down and say, Susie Q, I wanted to talk to you about how you can be a better team player. And then I can say, these are some things that I've observed over the past 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever the time frame is, that I feel were missed opportunities for you to contribute to the team. And then I can just factually present these to her. But I will never call her lazy. I will never say everybody on the team thinks you're lazy. I will never say you need to start, pulling your own weight or any other judgmental phrase. I'm just going to tell her what the behaviors were. Now, hopefully you wouldn't wait with Susie Q to have all 4 of these conversations at one time. So if in 1 week, Susie Q took 3 extended lunches and left early 4 times, you're going to have that conversation with her on Monday. I wanted to talk to you about last week. And I wanted to review with you our policy for lunches and leaving early. Then I can share this fact with her. So would it make your life easier if you just avoided the label? If we avoided the negative label or the slacker label or the other attitude labels that we use. So let's go ahead and give it a shot. Tom, you said negative attitude sometimes shows up in your workplace. What's an example of a behavior that you see from someone with a negative attitude?
The way I would describe it is complaining about something out of frustration, but instead of, they're not trying to fix the problem, they want to vent, which is fine. Venting's fine if you keep it within certain limits. Yeah. But if all you do is complain, you kind of tend to get the label of negative attitude.
Right. So one of the behaviors I heard in there, you started with some behaviors and then you murked it all up with some observations. So let's just be clear on the behaviors. So if I were to say that, Julie, this is the 4th complaint that you have brought to me this week. And you sure do complain a lot. It sort of feels like you have a negative attitude. There's nowhere to go with that, right? But what I could say is, Tom, this is the 4th time this week that you brought something to me that you didn't like. And one of the things I noticed is that you didn't bring with you any suggestions for how it could be improved. And I find that to be a more constructive approach. So would you do me a favor? Here's those 4 things. I'd like you to go back and think about what you'd like to see instead and bring that back to me. I haven't criticized you. I haven't humiliated you. I've simply asked you to be more constructive. Okay, what's another negative attitude? Dale, how do you know a negative attitude when you see one?
Well, it's not just one day, it's every day. They're not so much complaining, but they kind of forsake the main priorities of their job, the main basic functions of their job. They just won't do it as effective because they're so frustrated at whatever, so they're just negative. So it's within their actions. It's not just one day, it's something that's continuous.
Okay. So you would really have to dig a little bit deeper to get yourself a handful of those days. Has someone demonstrated a negative attitude in that way recently to you?
No, I'm still looking for a mechanic.
Okay. Royce, you raised your hand. What do you have to say?
A negative attitude in my work performance is a person that just come in with not smiling, not speaking, just like a mean mug or like mad every day, all day, nothing positive at all.
Mm-hmm. So how can you talk about that behaviorally, Royce?
I don't know. Because, I mean, not speaking, not smiling, not doing, it's hard. It's hard.
Yes, it is. Anyone got an idea for Royce?
Probably you could reach out to them and say, hey, pull them to the side and say, hey, I kind of noticed that, you're going pretty quiet and stuff. Is there anything you want to bring up to my attention that I can assist you with? You need help with, guidance with, or something like that? I would just kind of flip it as if like I noticed that there's an issue, but don't just say it's an issue, and see if they will let me know, or will they speak to me and say, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
So you wouldn't be afraid due to this person come in not smiling every day, not saying good morning, hi, not communicating or saying anything, they just doing them and doing what they have to do and then leave. You wouldn't be afraid to approach them?
No, I got 29 drivers in this company, and I on a regular basis, whenever I see one, I go up to them and start talking about the route, their day, their truck. I just start off with something small about, hey, did you notice on your truck? And then it just leads to whichever way, and then I let them guide it. And then from there, I pick and choose what I want to ask them off what they say. Some won't say much, some will say a little, but if you consistently do that, they will open up and tell you what's going on. And he may not just have a problem. He may just be mad at the world, but if it is what it is, at least you know that, and you're not assuming that he's mad about something at work.
Okay. So Kevin, thank you. That's such an excellent idea to flip the scenario. So guys, I'm gonna put this on the up here so I can not be looking at my laptop and looking at you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, thanks. So flipping the conversation, because we really don't have a clue why this person has that attitude. And most people appreciate someone asking them how they're doing and what's going on. And Andy said a couple times when she was talking to me, it's not like you to do this. Now, that's really hard to be confused about your intentions if you do that sincerely. Hey, I just added to the chat a link for a video, a YouTube video that you might want to watch. So if you want to copy and paste it, feel free to do that. Actually, I will also send it to you in an email today. It's called Every Life Has a Story. Really great perspective for treating people who look or give you a bad vibe, look negative. So what would be...
Julie, could I add to what you just said, if you don't mind, please?
Of course.
Folks, most of our workforce, a lot of people, including us, have trouble leaving home stuff at home. And so I would ask you to be particularly careful at guessing or assuming what's causing somebody to be unusually quiet or sad or maybe angry or displaying something, because you may be thinking they don't want to run on this route today, or whatever story you tell yourself about why they might be that way. But you don't know if their brother or sister got tested positive for coronavirus. You don't know if a relative just passed away. You don't know if somebody just got cancer in their family. And it's really not our place to go ask that, but we don't always know. And a lot of people have trouble leaving at home, and they bring it to work with them. And so just be mindful and be careful when you approach somebody. Kevin, I thought your idea was an excellent one, but just be careful not making assumptions about why you think their behavior may be what it is, or maybe a little different than normal. Give it a little thought before you just walk over there and start making comments or observations that may or may not be helpful. So food for thought.
Difficult. Very difficult.
Thanks, John. And it really is. I'm going to encourage you to watch the video link that I send you. I think it'll take you like 4 minutes, but it'll be a great reminder for you because the same is true for us. Sometimes we have the same kind of thing going on for us. All right, so we're going to move on just because of timing, but the same process when you're thinking about a can-do attitude. Well, let's just say, give me one idea, Kevin, of can-do attitude. What would be a behavior that says, I have a can-do attitude?
Someone that's constantly positive, and that we have someone here at this company. He's constantly positive, and when a task comes up, he's first to raise his hand and say, I'll take on that task. Whether he's not sure how to do it or not, he would still raise his hand and say, I will try to figure it out, or he's always the first one to say that.
Okay. So one of the things we want to be careful of is using those general terms like always and never. So, but what I really liked about what you said, Kevin, was when you said when a situation comes up, the person is going to say, yeah, I'll figure it out. Where the negative person is probably going to say all the reasons why they can't. So the more we can keep that to a given situation by saying, last Friday, we had a piece of equipment breakdown, and Joe immediately jumped to it by doing X, Y, and Z. Way more powerful reinforcement than sort of that generic statement. The more we can think this way, the more effective our feedback will be, the more meaningful it will be to our people, and the more likely it'll be to cause them to change their behavior. All right, I don't know why I can't get my computer to cooperate with me today, but let's walk through the rest of your worksheet here. So on page 8, the conversation on page 8, this is a reference sheet. So sometimes we give you reference sheets for things that we don't have a lot of time to talk about in the class. And this is just giving you some guidelines when you're observing a person's performance. What kind of things do you observe? What kind of things do you focus on? And I'm going to encourage you sometime before the end of the day today to take a second to just read through this, because this is a good guideline for you in terms of what type of performance you want to be paying attention to. The most important thing in my experience around focusing on, when we're looking at performance, is we don't want to look at the one-offs, either positive or negative. We kind of want to look at the trends. A lot of the times in organizations that do performance appraisals, what will happen is the leader won't take any notes throughout the entire year. And so whatever happened in the last 2 weeks is what the evaluation gets based on. And it's very, very frustrating to employees, and you've probably been in that situation at least once, where important things you did were missed. So just take a second to read this. It's self-explanatory. I do not need to add anything else to it. And I want to talk with you about what's on page 9. So how many of you document regularly observations you make about a staff member's performance? You do it at least once a week. 2 people do it once a week. Hayden, did you do it once a week before you went through the Leadership Academy the first time?
No.
No?
I did not.
What made you change your mind about it?
Writing a couple performance evaluations after being in the course and realizing, wait, I am using examples from the last month. So it wasn't until after I was taught it that I started doing it. It didn't come natural.
Okay, Nick, what makes you do it? Why do you do it?
We do manager reviews on a quarterly basis. So when we started doing, we first only did, minor notes. And what we found was we got so much feedback from everybody that was, you know, well, that's your opinion, that's your opinion. So we worked a lot on getting away from opinions and doing more facts. So we have questions that we give them, you know, that they give back to us. And then we also have everything broke down on what it's worth. So each category has a meaning behind it, and it's a fact, you know, late, you know, call out sick, you know, what jobs they brought in. So as a managing team, they can see how they perform. So we have to constantly put into, you know, we're constantly putting stuff into QuickBooks, you know, this guy was late, this guy was this. So we have fact-based, not opinions.
Okay.
So, and if we don't do it on a weekly basis, you get so far behind that you can't catch up. And then the employee attacks you about everything.
Okay, so if you take, thank you, Nick, and thank you, Kevin. If you take a look at the behavioral diary, this is a format that one person used to keep notes on their employees' behavior. And it is one version. The construct, whether you write this on paper, whether you have a file folder in your drawer that you write it on a little piece of paper and put it in a file with the employee's name on it, whether you have an iPad with a folder for each of your employees that has a place for you to write observations. The tool you use is irrelevant. The most important part about your tool is it should work for you. The content is important. So if you take a look at some of these examples here, and this is a run, the nice thing about this format is it's a running tally. So this is very behavioral. Work 20+ hours of voluntary overtime to ensure proper coverage during snowstorm, met deadline while maintaining quality specs. Any question about what happened there? How long would it take you to write that sentence?
A minute.
A minute?
Couple seconds. Really.
Couple seconds? No.
Notice that person wrote a fact, not an opinion, not a story, a fact.
Yes, with complete information. So now if I'm giving this person feedback, this is awesome because I can be very specific about what they did. This person is saying this, Pat missed the second team meeting this month, and then they're also documenting what they did about it and what was agreed upon. Again, how long would it take for someone to write those 2 sentences, 3 sentences? Not very long, right? Royce, how many times have you written one of these in the last month?
I haven't.
Okay. Martha, how many times have you written one of these in the last month? No? RJ? 0. 0, I love it. So what if we challenged you to start writing one performance observation every day, every work day? That would be 20 a month, right? That'd be 20 more than you have right now. So at the end of the year, or when you sit down to have a coaching discussion, you will have so much gold at your fingertips to work with.
I'm sorry, where are you calling from?
How hard would it be for you to write one performance observation a day?
Hey, Miss Julie.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you ask Miss Lois?
Miss Lois, how many performance observations do you write per day?
I write a lot. I didn't do it before I went through the leadership. I did it somewhat, but it wasn't anything that I could use after a month of keeping it. So I got a little bit more detailed with it. And I have a little notebook that I carry everywhere. And every time something happens, I have to write it down. 1, because I can't remember. And 2, because I always like to show appreciation to my team members. I'm very big on that. Very big.
Nice, nice. Well, good for you. And has it made a difference?
Yes, it has. Yes, it has.
Awesome.
And I'll tell you, Tuesday, we had a lot. I had 4 properties that I had to pull weeds. We're into landscaping, and there was 2 of us to start out, and I knew within 8 hours we would never get the first property done. I was very surprised. I don't ask for help like I should, but I was very surprised when I asked for help, how many people actually came and helped me. And it made me feel good. It made me feel good that people thought enough about me. I mean, we grabbed people from the maintenance department. We were grabbing sweeper drivers, porters, anybody that I could talk to, we were bringing into this project. It really made me feel good.
Yeah, they were saying yes. And that's because you have built relationship with them. That's awesome. Thank you. Who just spoke? Lisa.
No, I got somebody in here.
Oh, okay.
Barreling in here.
All right. The last page, page 10, is just asking you, before you go back to work, please take a second and write down your important lessons from this session. Because if you don't write them down, they will not stick to your ribs, and nothing will be different after you spend your time in these sessions.
Just a quick note for everybody that enjoys practicing some of these tips. You can use what we talked about today in a positive light, which Julie mentioned, if you want to give people some compliments, which is what allowed Lois to get so many volunteers, and give people a factual compliment. It'd be a fun practice this week just to give out 1 or 2 factual comments that makes somebody feel good, and have to be very specific and short and sincere.
Would you give an example of a factual comment that goes beyond good job or way to go or you rock?
Julie, I think the 10 hours that you and Andrea spent preparing today's handout was very valuable for everybody. Thank you.
You're welcome. So you see how the difference is? I know exactly what I did that you liked. It doesn't feel, it feels authentic and it feels meaningful to me. The more we can do that, the more effective we'll be as leaders.
I have one more.
Yeah, go.
I'm thankful for the company that has now started creating Alabama face masks. Mine arrived today. So for anybody that wants some to be safe and support Roll Tide, contact me.
Alabama.
I had
Oh
to
my
fit it in.
goodness.
I had
Yeah,
to.
you did. Well, that's cool. I'm gonna have to learn more about that, assuming they have more than just Alabama face masks. All right, we're a little bit past time. Thanks for being patient with this. And next week, you will have a self-study module. And I believe we also have a bonus program, a bonus session next week. Let me see if I'm crazy or not.
While she's looking, all of you have a schedule. Please monitor and pay attention to the schedule that we produced, because it'll tell you what's coming on what dates.
Yeah, we do. No,
Some of you missed the bonus session, the open microphone session a week or so ago, and Julie took the time to produce a nice email with some videos and some attachments. If you haven't read that and watched the videos, I think you'd find it very valuable from the session a week ago.
even if you didn't go, we think you'll pick up. But no, Royce, you were in that session. Was that session valuable to you?
Very.
Good. That's all you need to say. Who else was? Dale, you were in the session. Was it valuable to you?
Yes, it was.
Yes, good. Yeah, so we find that those bonus sessions, we call them that, but they're really great opportunities to do some problem solving and think of things a little differently. So we do invite you all to join us. And I have never done that summary report before. So it's good to know that some of you found it to be valuable because it took a amount of time and I don't want to just do work if nobody's going to use it. All right, you guys, this is hard stuff, and you really hung in there well today. I know it can be really frustrating. RJ, I appreciate your candor to say at first. I was like, what's the difference? And then when you start to notice it, do you feel like you have a better handle now on the difference between facts and other stuff?
Yeah, it's more, you're looking for more direct reactions rather than assuming.
Right. Right. It's something that you could defend in a court of law. Not that that's what this is about, but you know, you just can't go into a court of law and say this guy's a total jerk or, you know, disrespectful. You have to have evidence. And that's what we're talking about, behavioral evidence.
You can use it with customers that are angry. You can use it with vendors, subcontractors. This is all about being an effective communicator.
All right. Thank you guys so much. Please fill on your learning journal before you leave. And if you're in a really good mood and feeling generous, send John and I your lessons learned because we always like to know what they are and it helps us know what you need in the future.
Okay. Can I add something?
Yes.
If everyone who's replying to Julie in the emails, if you could hit just reply and not reply at all, that'd be awesome. Emails are like getting flooded with it for everything, and I'm losing track of what I'm trying to keep track of.
Yeah.
I know I cannot be the only one.
Thanks, Vinny. Yeah, please be careful about doing that. Oh, and one more thing. I do have a self-study program that I will be launching around the DISC model that doesn't have a timeline to it. I decided not to send you one last week because I wanted you to just have a week off, but that will be coming your way, and we do not have a Zoom call next week. We will have a self-study module on goal aligning and writing goals. So you may get two, but I'll make sure I tell you what, you know, when they're due. All right. Let us know if you need anything, and we wish you an awesome couple of weeks.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, John.
Bye, everybody. Be safe.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Be safe.
Lisa's looking like, why am I still here?
That's computer, that's why I don't know what the hell.
It's down in the lower right corner.
It's a little button that says leave.
Bye, Lisa.
Yes, bye guys.
Bye-bye. Wait, you're still here, Lisa.
Oh, sorry.
You got to push the button.
I pushed it. I pushed it.
The button that in my there. She was acting a little bit loopy today.
She's still on the call.
No, she's not. She's not. No,